This sling bag has been called one of the greatest ever made, the Aer Day Sling 3. If you do any research online, the Day Sling 3 frequently comes up as one of the best bags on the market you can buy. But in 2025, is it still worth your money? Well, in this review, we will find out, looking at how it works as both an everyday carry bag and a creator's sling. We'll go through the features, test some real-world loadouts, and at the end, I'll give you my honest pros and cons after using it. So if you're wondering, is this still the GOAT sling? Well, stick around. Now, just to be upfront, Aer did send me this bag for the purpose of review, but they had no say in the content of this video. All thoughts here are based on my own real-world use. Now, if you decide to pick one up, there is an affiliate link down in the description that helps support the channel. But with all that out of the way, let's go ahead and get into the features. Starting here with the exterior, on the front you've got one big open pocket, no organization inside, just a small stitched in key leash. And there is a little bit of a con there that I will mention later. On the sides you get two small anchor points for clips, and on the left there's a finger loop for pulling the bag around to the front. Around the back, there's another open zip pocket, great for a wallet or passport. I do wish there was one feature in this back pocket, but I will get more into that later. One thing I did find useful here is there is actually a pass-through slot for charging cables, which is nice. And on the back, you will also find a handle, and I love seeing a handle on a sling of this size. Makes quick grabs so much easier. Now, the main compartment is where the Day Sling 3 shines. It expands to about 4.5 inches, which is really great for a sling this size. Inside, you've got a sleeve here that perfectly fits an iPad mini, a small zippered pocket. Now, if you're a new dad, I think this pocket actually works pretty well for something like baby wipes or an extra diaper. The materials in here are fairly water resistant, but I don't think I would keep wipes in here raw without anything to keep the rest of the bag dry. But moving on to the rest of the bag, we have two mesh pockets on the back panel, as well as two more on the front. Both are made of this nylon stretch material. Now, speaking of materials, let's get into what this bag is made of, because I do think there are some pros and cons here that you need to be aware of. The version of this sling that I have here is made of Cordura ballistic nylon, and from the interior to the exterior, everything feels really rugged and tough. There is even a little bit of padding here on the back panel and a little bit of padding on the bottom panel as well. So they really went out of their way here to make this bag feel like it could survive just about any situation you could put it in. One thing I will say on that is that these are not exactly luxury boutique materials here. The ballistic nylon is one of the nicer ones that I've seen, but this bag is really built to last and not necessarily be a designer piece. So if you're someone that really values aesthetic, you might want to look into getting the X-Pack version of this bag. But I do also feel like there is some room here for a luxury version, but I'll talk a little more about that later. Let's talk about the strap, which is honestly for me the weakest point of this bag. It's not a seatbelt style material, so it doesn't glide as smoothly as something like a Peak Design bag might have for its strap, and it can feel a little bit rough against the neck. That said, the width of it makes a big difference. At 1.5 inches, it grips your shoulder really well. So if you're just slinging it over one shoulder on the go, it won't slide off like thinner straps tend to do. Now, something else I mentioned, the strap is sewn in, so you can't swap it out. And this is something I wish Aer had designed differently, not just for aesthetic purposes, but there is a practical reason why you might want a removable strap as a creator. So I will get into that a little bit more later. Now, because the sling is wider, it covers most of my chest when worn across my body. It is comfortable and conforms slightly to your body, maybe not as much as something like the Toshi sling that I reviewed earlier this year, but the trade-off there is durability versus flexibility, because again, I feel like this sling is built like a tank. One other downside I'll mention is with this nylon on the back, there isn't a ton of breathability. Combine that with the size of the sling, and it can feel a little bit warmer on your chest, especially on hotter days. So I tended to just throw it onto my back. Okay, now let's get into some loadouts, and we're gonna start simple. Here are some earbuds as well as some keys. I think this back pocket works pretty well to hold your phone, and then in the middle zipper pocket, I'm going to throw in some tissues, and then wallet goes into this back area. Now here's one of the areas where I do think there could have been a little bit of improvement. I think I would have liked to have seen just two smaller pockets, just somewhat flat up against the panel here. Because the sling is so wide, if you put an item or two in here, they can tend to maybe slide around a little bit. So having like a really thin pocket, like just strictly for a super minimalist wallet, I think would just help with some of the organization. But it is extremely functional and it can hold quite a bit. Now, something that is unique for this bag, because it is a little bit wider, as I mentioned, you can do something like fit a water bottle. And let me give you a measurement for that. So we're looking at probably about 10.5 inches long. So maybe if you have like a 10-inch water bottle that you can fit here into the middle. So you can see that does work really well for just a few EDC items. Now I will say that I'm not sure that this is an everyday carry solution for someone who is ultra minimalist. If you're using this as an EDC bag, you really got to have a purpose in mind for the wider space in the main compartment, like the water bottle that I'm showing here. Maybe like a camera and a lens or a small tripod that I will get into here in a minute. So if you're not taking advantage of that wider space, this is quite a large bag to only carry a few items with you. Now, there is some compressibility to be had here. So if you can see here on the bottom, you can see that it folds inward and it does expand outward. So it does bring the overall depth of the sling in just a little bit, so it's not sticking out as much. But you do still have the overall width taking up a pretty good footprint. So if you're only planning on taking a few items with you, you're super minimalist, maybe check out my review of the Alpaca Go Sling Nano. Okay, now let's throw in some creator style items here. So I'm gonna take out the water bottle and I'm gonna throw in the X100-6, and you can see that it fits beautifully in there. There's still plenty of room here on this side. I've even got enough vertical space to put the camera vertically, and that gives me even more space here on the side. Now, because there are no dividers inside this bag, you are going to get a little bit of movement in here, like with the camera, if you don't have something else in there. But because this does conform to your body a little bit, it will somewhat prevent it from sliding around. But I do feel something like the Toshi Sling did keep the camera in place a little bit better. But again, as I mentioned earlier, with the Toshi Sling, you are exchanging some of the protection there, as the Toshi was pretty thin. Whereas this does provide some pretty good protection for camera gear. All right, now what about something like a full frame camera like the Lumix S5 2X? And you can see that it fits perfectly in there, and I can even put it on its side to create even more room. But for now, I'm going to keep it just like that. And I can also put a lens in here. This is one of the Lumix Primes. We've got plenty of space for a small full frame camera along with a compact lens. Now, in terms of height for a lens that you might want to put in here, you're looking at about 6.5 inches or so. So lots of space to get something in here. And as I've mentioned before, this bag is pretty padded. So you can feel pretty confident, pretty comfortable about keeping gear inside of here. If I want to make this a little bit more of a camera bag, I can take out the earbuds and then put in something maybe like some SD cards, an ND filter. And then I'm also going to throw in an iPad mini into this back pocket. So that way I can do some light editing on the go. So you can see you can fit quite a bit in here. And I think it can work pretty well for like an minimalist day out. You've got a small compact camera, maybe you've got a smaller full frame camera and a lens, with a couple of EDC items. I think it fits all of that fairly well. Now, I do want to go over one more carry solution, talking about it as a travel bag. So since I've got the iPad mini in here, I'm going to take this other stuff out. And for me personally, I like to travel with a Nintendo Switch, a camera, and my iPad mini. So you can see that the Nintendo Switch fits great in here. This is a Switch OLED, by the way. And then I've got the tablet in the back panel, but now you can see that there really isn't room for a small compact camera. And in case you're wondering, will the Switch fit into this zippered pocket? And I can tell you that it will not. It really does have to go into the main compartment area. So if you're someone like me who likes to have these 3 different devices with you, you're gonna have to make a call on which 2 devices you would like to take, because unfortunately this Sling can't really accommodate 3 large devices. All right, so let's wrap this up. Is the Aer Day Sling 3 still worth it in 2025? And does it deserve the GOAT title? I think for me, the answer is yes, this Sling is still absolutely worth it in 2025. Even with so many new bags released since the Day Sling 3, I think this bag still holds its ground for 2 big reasons. First, the materials, like I mentioned earlier, the ballistic nylon and padding give me full confidence that this bag can handle almost any environment. It feels rugged, it's built to last. And second is the flexibility. The combination of the width, internal zippered pocket, and multiple mesh pockets mean this bag punches way above its weight in terms of carry capacity and organization. That said, it's not perfect. If I could improve it, here's what I personally would want to see. Maybe like a luxury version with upgraded strap material, more breathable back panel, maybe even like a honeycomb style lining on the inside. A removable strap for sure, not just for looks, but for functionality. That way creatives could use this as a pared down tech pouch or a protective case inside of a bigger backpack. That is something that I do quite a bit. I'll have a bigger backpack to carry the majority of my stuff, and then a smaller bag that I can throw into there that maybe will hold like some EDC items, some tech items, or maybe like a camera, just something to give it some extra protection. As it is right now, because that strap is not removable, I can't really do that. A couple more things I like to see is just some refinements inside. Like I mentioned earlier, some thinner divider sleeves, so that way things like wallets don't slide around, or you just kind of have like a dedicated spot for the wallet. And then the option to remove or relocate the key leash. Something I really love from the Toshi Sling is that ability to take the key leash and move it around to different compartments of the bag. And just for me personally, I don't get a lot of use out of key leashes. So even if it was just the option to just completely take it out and not have it floating around in there, that's the kind of thing that I appreciate. So it would be really nice to have the ability to just remove the key leash altogether. All right, so who is this bag for? Well, if you want a rugged, reliable sling you can trust to take anywhere, I think this is a fantastic choice. If you're a creative, it can double as an EDC bag and carry a surprising amount of camera gear when needed. Just remember that the strap isn't removable, so it's not designed to be stuffed inside of another backpack. It's really meant to be worn on its own. Now, if you're an everyday carry person who also likes to bring a water bottle, the width makes this sling unique for that purpose. If you're a traveler, it does work really well. Just know that it maxes out at 2 large devices like a tablet and a Switch, or a tablet and a camera. You won't realistically fit all 3. That said, if you have a larger gaming device or you need something with more width than usual, this sling will be a great option, just as long as your device is under 11 inches long. So does it deserve the GOAT title? I'd say it's definitely in the running. But as always, there's no perfect bag, only the perfect bag for the right situation. And the Day Sling 3 checks a lot of boxes in a lot of ways. All right, so if you've made it this far, thank you for watching. If you decide to pick one up, you'll find my affiliate link down below. It helps support the channel at no extra cost to you. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and let me know in the comments, what is your favorite feature of the Day Sling 3? All right, that's it for me. I will catch you all in the next one.